Okay, so to Curly Hair Mafia, let us introduce ourselves. I am Dr. Ravidia.
I am Dean Lee.
And I'm Adverbia.
And yes, we are back, and we are back to review Hobbs and Shaw, because why send one bald man to save the world when you can send two? Or three? I don't know. I feel like we're down a bald guy, but I think that they're in a cat fight. What's that?
Right.
Vin Diesel, I think, is the other one I'm thinking of. Okay, so we typically do our categories, right? We've got our Clark Kent, we've got our non-science or nonsense, and then, oh my gosh, I've totally blinked on the third.
Side-eye.
Side-eye.
Side-eye. Well, with Fast and the Furious, those series, isn't the whole thing like a giant side-eye?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So this is directed by, according to the Googles, David Lynch. And he's done a bunch of other movies that are very similar. And he's a producer. He produced the first John Wick movie, according to IMDb. Hopefully they're not telling us lies. And Deadpool 2.
Oh.
And movies that I think went straight to video, but let's not dwell on it. So where do we want to start, ladies?
Well, okay, so we've got Dwayne Johnson playing Luke Hobbs.
The Rock.
We've got Jason Statham playing Deckard Shaw.
Oh, sorry.
We've got Jason Statham playing Deckard Shaw, so both characters from the Fast and Furious franchise. It's worth noting that the title of this film is actually The Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
They're going to ride that.
We've got Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool.
Yes.
Or himself, which he
Yes.
does say in every movie.
Right.
And I'm glad he's finally stopped trying to be serious actor, for one. So thank you, Ryan Reynolds, to accept your lot in life. Okay.
And then who plays his sister?
That's what I was just trying to look up real fast.
You know what? I was sitting in the middle of this movie going, holy shit, it's the Queen's sister from The Crown.
Oh, I don't watch this show, but that's who she is?
Yes. Yes. It's Queen Margaret. It's Princess Margaret. You know, the party girl.
It should have say that here in the little whatever I pulled up. The Crown's Vanessa Kirby.
So, and it was when she got the dark-haired wig on, I literally turned to my friend and I was like, that's the Queen's sister from The Crown.
Yeah, Kirby. Yeah.
And Helen Mirren, who I love.
I love her in everything. She's big. She really is.
Okay, so I have to say the choice of the actress really threw me in the initial trailers until I realized that she was Deckard Shaw's sister, because I didn't believe her as like an action type character, but I totally believe her as Helen Mirren's daughter.
Totally.
You know, like that. I was like, once I found that out, I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. So where do we want to start? We've got the setup. Right? So, of course, once again, and at some point, we have to just ask ourselves, how much soap opera are we going to allow the Fast and the Furious? But I don't care. It's got hot guys and hot cars, so what do we care? But once again, the world's on the brink. And this time, Idris Elba is, the menace, which I am fine with. Black Superman.
Yeah.
As he likes to refer to himself.
Yeah,
and so he's supposedly the villain. We've got these two good guys, Hobbs and Shaw. And then the sister.
Yeah, and the sister.
And the sister.
Right.
And so, of course, shit goes off the rails fairly early in this movie. Right. Thank goodness.
So the central premise being that there's a virus. They're trying to steal a virus. Some kind of Black Ops MI6 comes in and tries to...
virus.
A programmable virus. The Idris Elba's character comes in, the bad guy comes in while they're trying to intercept this programmable virus. And to prevent it from being stolen, she injects it into herself.
Yeah.
So she becomes the vector, right? So the girl is the MacGuffin, right? And
She's
then
Patient Zero.
right, and then the chase ensues. They have to get it out of her within 72 hours, or else it becomes active. It has a 100% mortality rate, global death, destruction, if it's not specifically programmed to an individual's DNA, which apparently it can be.
Can I just say that this was the longest 72 hours of anyone's life? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I walked out of that film feeling like it was a music video of a movie. Like that was my overall impression, that it was a music video of a movie. Like I imagine you could put on the soundtrack to this movie and have a kick-ass Zumba class.
Yes, you could. Okay, there were a lot of beat drops.
And the whole song, they played the whole song. The montages were long enough that the whole song could play.
Well, you know, I feel like, especially now that we know the information about the Fast and Furious cast, about who can win, who can lose, how many punches, how many knockdowns, whatever. I have to say, though, right up front, I really like this movie, but sometimes I just like to go to movies where there's hot guys blowing shit up and fucking up everything. So don't judge me, whatever. I've seen all the Transporter movies, so clearly my test is skewed. But what I thought about this movie, though, is that, it was really, and it was a lot funnier than I thought it would be. So I'm going to give them that straight off the bat. I can see the Deadpool, right? They got some great cameos in there. But what cracked me up is I think at some point, much like we talked about in Skyfall, this movie originally was about a half hour shorter. And then they were like, we don't have enough fights and there isn't some ridiculous scene with someone pulling a helicopter. You bitches need to go back to some fucking island and shoot some more scenes, okay? Because we're going to need about, 15 more explosions, and here's another $40 million. I mean, I don't know, but I really feel like, and then they were like, and by the way, get some more Swedish House Mafia music in there. It was like such, at some point I was like, did Michael Bay did he come in? Is Bruckheimer involved? We should find, I had that feel to me that it was like, it was a bit too long. I'm not saying that it was bad. I'm just saying it's like, how many more types of fights? But that's such a Transporter move. And I'm seeing that more with the Rock's movies. It's like, no, I know that you fought and killed these people about 9 different ways, but we're going to need an even dozen. So if you could go back and shoot some more footage to music, that would be great.
Yeah. So let's talk about the stunts, though. There were some really imaginative. I mean, I don't care how much of it was CGI. Like, I really don't. There was some really imaginative stuff. Yes. What, like, if you had to pick one stunt sequence that was like your favorite thing, what would it be?
Mine was definitely when Idris' character goes under the truck. Like,
when the trucks were like passing like that.
He jumps off. He's almost in this crawl position and then comes back up. As the movie was playing, I was like, and that's why Idris can get it.
I don't know who the cinematographer is. It reminded me some of the follow-through shots, like whenever Idris got up or off of a motorcycle, especially because it was, biomechanical, the way that the camera tracked it, especially if it was like one fluid movement, it very much reminded me of the Transporter movies.
Yeah.
I think my favorite stunt out of all the ridiculous stunts was actually showing, and it was totally like that could happen, but it was all the cars connecting up like Legos. On a cliff in a storm. on some, like, they wanted you to know where they were, girl. And I just like the way that they shot that, because a lot of the fights were very choppy. It actually was like, oh, what am I looking at? But when they, to show how all the cars, that was really badass. Like, I liked how it looked. And And that was like a small, of all the explosions and kabooms and like whatever, that's kind of like a small one. What about you, Lolly?
For me, it was close to that sequence, but it was the hooking up sequence.
Yeah.
Like specifically when they're hooking the cars up together. First of all, it was hilarious.
Right. So you and I like the same thing.
And then at some point, they just let go.
Yes.
Like, we went with our kids, and my 13-year-old daughter was like, "How did they get unhooked?" Like,
magic.
You know, that scene was competing. It didn't win my no science, but it was competing for my no science, especially when the extra big bruh comes through, literally with one in each hand,
Right.
chunks it, and they land perfectly.
Yeah.
So let us do no science then, because
it would happen just like that.
There's wealth.
My daughter described that, like when they were all hooked, she said that it looked like the little barrel of monkey toys.
Yes. Yes.
She's right.
Exactly.
Is she old enough to be on these calls yet? She might be a great guest contributor on this one.
So what are our no science? Let's start with you, since Dee, you brought it up. Let's start with.
It competed, but it didn't win. Basically, my no science was how physics didn't work at all in this entire universe.
At all. None of it.
None of it. It seemed to be working nowhere, but where it seemed especially egregious, because it was bad everywhere, was the scene where they're on the truck bed and they're hauling ass out of the nuclear factory and they're fighting, and she's twisting and turning and no one's body is compensating. Like, and then when they finally there was just no physics, just didn't work. All in the helicopter, and then when they finally jump off, and like he's like, brace yourself, he literally just holds on. I did at least appreciate them having her body dangle out the truck a little bit. But I really was just like, everybody's dead. Everybody should be dead. Nobody pulled up in this movie for anything. And she just braced herself. I'm just going to hold on while we... And there was no physics. Physics just didn't exist.
No. If I had had like a little clicker about all the egregious violations to the basic principles of physics, click, you know, like there's so many, but the one for me that I was just like, I can't let that go. Out of all the ones, and there are so many, between the explosions and the I can grab a helicopter at speed, okay. It was when they jumped out, he jumped out of a fucking building. Fine. You know what? I'm going to give you the jump with nothing on. Fine, you're the Rock. But you had bare hands and you grabbed that fucking cable going at friggin' warp speed 9, it looked like, and your hands are fine. That is my thing. Like, I know of all of the bullshit in this movie, your hands would have been fucked up.
That started as my first one 5 minutes in the movie. I literally grabbed my hand as it was happening. I was like, ooh, my hands are hot. Oh.
And you know, like he's literally he aims himself, right? I'm gonna let the aiming yourself and knocking out a bad guy go. But what I can't let go is your hands would have been shredded, right? And then he drops again, takes another bad guy out, grabs the rope. No can do, my friend. I'll let you get away with grabbing a helicopter and then grabbing the chains, hooking them back onto the truck. But I won't fucking let you get away with just the laws of friction. I can't.
I was hurting watching that scene.
Yeah. I was like this.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. It was bad.
What about you, Lolly?
So mine was a little bit of a quieter moment. So The Idris Elba character, what I don't even know what his character's name is, which brings me to something else a little bit later.
It was Brixton.
Brixton. So
Brixton.
Brixton is
Brixton.
he's a cyborg, right?
Yes.
I mean, they never say that he's a cyborg, but he's a cyborg. He's mechanically, technologically enhanced. So there's this moment about 3/4 of the way through the movie. He periodically has to go in to get like his oil changed or whatever. And so they have him in his little harness, and they're like, he's suffering because it hurts, and they're like lasering him up. And then the camera pans around to the back, and you see that his back is open, and his spinal cord is exposed. Not a spinal cord, but his spine, right? His vertebra is exposed. And then there's this really cool effect where this machine like ratchets him together, right? So it sews up like a zipper, and he's got these rivets in his back. And the only thing I could think was the amount of antibiotics he must have in his system to have a wound that can be accessed like that. He would have to wear a diaper. He would have diarrhea 24/7. Those antibiotics would mess him up all on the inside. He would just be pooping nonstop.
You are so right. I was looking at that too, and I was like, he's basically like a transplant patient, right? Like, how is he even?
Yeah, how is there not, like pus just streaming out of that? Like,
I mean, that's what I was like. There's so much with this movie, right? And I love how that's what we have to do. I mean, that's the point of doing the non-science. And for me, it's so funny how I'm like, look, yeah, sure. Okay, you're effectively a robot. I'll give it to you. Yeah, The Rock, you can hold a helicopter, blah, blah, blah. But that's why I love doing this segment, is because there's always just something that each of us are like, no can do, friends.
And the close second was when the cooling tower from like whatever that abandoned plant was, it basically falls on top of him, right?
Yeah.
But earlier in the movie, he wears a motorcycle helmet. Mm-hmm. Why? You don't need it. You don't need it at all.
It's to
but
keep
that open back wound, I could not.
I know what the motorcycle helmet was for. It wasn't to protect his cranium. It was just keep all that dust from flying in his eye. That's all. It's just it's goggles. It's just protective eyewear.
Yes.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, that's the thing with all the Fast and the Furious. But this one, I really think, right, they ratchet up a notch of like, excuse me, what? Like, but I have to say, the science thing I really did like, because there's not many in this movie. So this is like a sci-fi fantasy with, the transporter thrown in, and then The Rock just being The Rock, is the champagne service.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna choose an alcoholic bottle to kick someone's ass with, it's a good choice to go with the champagne bottle. That shit is strong for a reason, because it's under high pressure. That was smart, and I absolutely believe that. I was like, yep, I can see it. Physically, that makes sense. That was like literally the only part of this movie I was like, yes, yeah. And when he said like, ooh, this held up.
I was disappointed he didn't shoot somebody with the cork.
Me too. I was too. I was waiting on that.
Maybe they were like, no, too easy. I don't know. But I just thought, I'm just like, okay, that I really, really like. That made total sense to me. Like, when they do that kind of shit with the wine bottle, I'm like, doesn't work, friend. But so that part I really liked. Now, what about, because I don't know if this is a side eye, but another thing that really was close to me is, so they finally get to this Russian lair, which I'm like, that's nice and OG. I like it. When they finally get to this lair, super secret, corporation, okay, whatever. We'll talk about later who's actually the boss there, because clearly there's going to be a sequel. Clearly. So they didn't have cameras? Because anyone noticed, too, that they snuck up on each other really kind of shit? Like, it just sneaks up on this MI5 team, and I'm like, they can't hear him? They can't hear him? They have like, and then they get and like everyone sneaks up on each other. You're like, they can't hear them because I can hear like. But like when they sneak into this compound, they just roll up. There's no cameras. Like they have cameras in the inside. They don't have any on the approach. Like that part, I was like, that was really close to me. Is I'm like, they literally let them walk in. How?
Budget cuts. That's all. They listen. You can only all that expensive stuff inside. They were like, listen, this is a fortress. We don't need cameras on the outside because this is a fortress. And we had to make cuts somewhere and scanning the perimeter. They also didn't have anyone watching the perimeter, which all the firepower they had, you would have a couple people just up top looking.
And nobody's monitoring Russian airspace. You can just fly a fucking plane and shit all over Russia you can that's all right.
Obviously, you can do that and parachute in. Again, more physics not working. How they didn't break every bone in their body. How they landed.
Right.
And they stuck the landing inside the thing, and then they landed soft, baby, so soft.
I mean, there are gymnasts that would have been like, son of a bitch.
Should have been broken everything. All the muscles, all the bones in their legs should have just been shattered.
I just love how it's like still I'm like, but why but this is the reason why I don't buy these. If this is how the completely like funding is no limit, they control all of media, right? It's like what's his name, Murdoch, with the Fox News and the yeah, right. But you can't buy one outdoor security camera for $29.95. I don't understand. That's
but it's a good point. It's a good point. No, but this is the same beef I have with Star Trek. Is that like, you know, in Star Trek they have intergalactic travel at warp speed, and they don't have security cameras on any of their space stations or spacecraft. They don't have closed circuit TV, nothing.
It would make the series would be over.
Nothing. And at best they have like Fitbits to tell you where people are.
Right? Yeah. Oh, he's in his cabin.
Okay.
And he ordered Earl Grey tea. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So my side eye was another tiny little thing. So Hattie, that's the sister's name, Hattie, which I can only assume her name is Harriet.
Probably.
Right? So her brother gets a cool name like Deckard, and she gets saddled with Harriet, but whatever. So I have a real problem with her styling. It was distracting me through the entire film. Okay. She was a very beautiful woman. She had blonde hair and brown eyebrows and black lashes. And the whole time, like they can CGI somebody holding a helicopter and a truck together, but they can't give her eyelashes that look real. Are you kidding me? From the very first shot, the very first time we see her, she's like kitted out in her like MI6 fatigues, ready to go in, and she's got these like anime eyelashes going on like this.
The makeup artist, I don't know. I mean, she's not a natural blonde, which whatever. But yeah, the makeup artist choice of like making those like almost Betty Boop.
And then with the brown, like the brown arched eyebrows, like so blonde and then brown and then black. And I just could not. That was
on the other hand, my thing is, yeah, I guess if you were living that lifestyle, you wouldn't be super concerned that you kind of look a hot mess. But and you are patient zero.
They were drawn perfectly. Like at some point she had time to like.
I think those were tattoo girl.
Yeah. And her character kept makeup on too. Like she had the wings, like the
oh yeah, always
like fresh. All this stuff they went through. She had those wings.
Just like Jason Statham, doesn't matter what movie he's in, always looks like it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I would have respected it more if she was like with that makeup, like hatchet face, like halfway through, like just like, like you know, like I would have respected it a lot more.
Speaking of makeup, the best person in this movie, Helen Mirren, looked better in prison garb than literally everyone else in this movie. And I mean everyone else.
That woman is a stunner.
First of all, she's a stunner. So Helen Mirren can get it too. Let's just be honest.
And what I want to see is the deleted scenes from her in prison, because she walked out for her visitation. She had that badass diamond ring.
Right.
She wearing a gold chain around her belly.
So that's my side eye. What kind of prison time is she doing? Was she? And then when they hit the last cut of the scene, I thought she was out because it looked like she was in a penthouse or something.
I feel like
what kind of time is she serving?
That is what I'm saying.
She's bangled up, had the big ring on.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most intriguing. She is. I loved every minute she was on the screen.
She's like, I'm here used to be.
And Jason Statham was more
terrifying. She must be terrifying. Like her first day in prison, she must have cut a bitch and then chained her up to the outside of her cell as an example to everybody else.
I think she did that to a guard, because you see how the guards were acting with her. She had to have done it to one of them too.
I don't even think I think like she just like is able, like she has such a reputation that they were like she's an urban myth. Like she could just, she's back. Oh shit.
And she's an OG. Because look,
right? So like, you think she was running like a Pablo Escobar joint? Like
for sure.
She just decided.
And they knew she wasn't staying there. She was there because that's where she wanted to be at that time. But she wasn't really there. Right? I mean, she just had this whole vibe where she's like, look, I'm here on my own free will.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Right?
So, if they're talking about spinning anything off, I would love to see her story. Like, show me her. Like, show me that character. And, when she's had the flashbacks to when she was younger, coming to friends. Like, that would be a Hulu series I would pay money to.
No, I don't want to see her now, right? Because we don't get enough movies with women of a certain age.
That's
like,
true.
she's more interesting to me now.
She's interesting. I think her whole character would be interesting. I'm like, this is, you could have started there. Forget Fast and the Furious. This is Bad and Bougie. For real.
And the most interesting, like, chemistry, her and Statham have great chemistry. Yeah, like, he has better chemistry with her. I mean, him and The Rock are okay. Yeah, but the scenes with them were top. Right? Like, they were funny and heartwarming, and I really did believe it. And I was like, I want to see more of Mom Shaw, right? And Baby Shaws. And, and I hope when they do the sequel, which they will, that she, like, comes in to save, her son and daughter and their little friends.
Yeah.
But
just Helen Mirren's whole energy. I feel like on set, when you have Statham and Johnson together on set, they must just each be like, well, I'm going to do what I'm going to do and you're going to do whatever. But with Helen Mirren, I feel like it must be like, oh my God, I hope I don't embarrass myself today. Like,
it's like Mom being on set.
Yeah.
Like, if Mom is an Academy Award, like, you're just like, don't fuck this up, right? Like, everybody be on your best fucking behavior. Yeah. But I could also see her being like, oh, what the fuck are you people doing? Shooting back some tequila and being like, let's get this movie made, right?
Let's get it over. Scenes in one day, get it done, chop.
She probably was like, you guys get 2 weeks. Let's get this shit over with, right? Like, I don't know, but like, I loved her. And it's weird though. So can we talk about Idris?
Yes.
Because he plays a villain.
He does.
He's a complicated character. He always plays these kind of like, it's a villain, it's not. And I think I was literally saying this movie going, so let me get this straight, eugenics. Right? Like, that's what this corporation is about. That's not a spoiler. That's literally the trailer. It's eugenics. And Idris Elba has bought into it. And I'm like literally laughing the whole time going, you do know that you are nothing, right? Like you're it's like aligning yourself, right, with eugenicists, when you're Idris Elba, I was like, oh my God, when are they going to shut him off, right? And you knew it was coming, right? That part was really interesting to me because, okay, so we all saw Aquaman, right?
Yeah.
You see the parallels between the villain of Aquaman and the villain in this movie?
Yeah.
Like, there's some action, whether it's right or wrong, that the villain was made by the hero or one of the heroes.
Yeah.
Again, whether that's true or not, that's in the mind of the villain, that's true, right? Like, they were friends, or there was some action on the hero's part that made the villain, right? And both the villains are Black. And at some point, right, there's this cause, and they seem to go away, die, but this is Fast and the Furious is a telenovela, right? And so, like, the whole time I'm just like, he's not really dead.
No.
He fucking went in the water, but like
We
a soap opera, he's gonna wash up on shore with retrograde amnesia.
And the cold water served like a cryo tank that preserved him. It put him in stasis. So because of this icy cold water, he's been in stasis. So that actually preserved him.
Now, whether he'll buy back into the eugenicist trope, because that's the other thing. This movie was silly. It was, very choreographed explosions. They're saving the world. Again, of course, they were going to be successful. Of that there was no doubt. But I'm also looking at this being like, so you have a Black man being a foot soldier for this white supremacist eugenic. When I think of eugenicists, like, that's what I think of, the weak. Right. And that's why the whole time when he's speaking, I'm like, you're a marked man, right? You ain't shit to this person. And the minute you become not useful, you are fucking done, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah, so the fact that that's who they had as the messenger of that was the Clark Kent for me. Like, I was fine with Idris being a bad guy and wanting whatever the package was. But once it became clear it was about, redoing the world, I was like, I just don't buy that someone like I don't buy a Black or a brown person would do that. Nope. No. Like, if he wanted the upgrades for himself, fine. But the whole, like, we're going to get rid of the weed and not realize, like you said, and he knew he was, well, you're right. How could he not know he was marked? Because he was constantly being told what to do. So despite having all this power, he was getting all these veiled threats all the time. Like, you're going to do it. You're going to do what I told you to do.
So it's interesting. He was shot in the head, right? So 8 years prior, he gets shot in the head by Deckard Shaw.
Yeah.
And then this company comes in and, like, saves his life, essentially. Yeah. And that's when he becomes a cyborg. So as we were watching the movie, I was thinking, like, because he doesn't, he wasn't evil before. It's not like before he got shot, he was one of the good guys, right? He works for the government. He works for MI6 or whatever.
He tried to turn Shaw. That's why Shaw shot him.
Right. So, like, I wondered, like, if it was a brain damage thing. Like, there are some people who have, like, brain injuries and then afterwards they can't tell right from wrong.
You know what?
Or they lose their empathy.
Like, honestly, though. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Dee.
I was just saying, now that you put that, I will allow that. Okay, I will allow that.
I was going to take the different approach of how many times do people align themselves with the majority, with oppressive forces, thinking that if I do what they want, if I model myself or, do all these things they tell me to do, if I conform, if I kind of adopt, these personas and these actions, and I'm good, I will be good enough. Mm-hmm. And that's never fucking true. Right. But how many times the dangling of that has motivated countless people to, that's respectability politics. Yep. Do what we want, when, do this thing this way, and you too will, achieve this thing. And all you end up with scraps off the master's table. But that part was very believable to me. I didn't find that of, like,
Okay.
And like that's why though is that there are lots of people that buy into that. On the other hand, though, I found it, and this was my own fault of thinking of big characters that Idris Elba's played, like Stringer Bell, like Luther, very smart characters, good, bad, somewhere in between as far as their morality, whatever, but never stupid, right? Never stupid. Always could read a room. Might have played a hustle, but was never stupid. And that's why I had a problem with this character because I mean, like with Stringer Bell and with Luke, like you play the game, you play the hustle, the game doesn't play you. And the fact that he like clued in pretty fucking late, like that. But then again, like getting back to what you said, Lolly, this is not him, right? This is some version of him. Like, and I had to go, okay, but this is not these other characters. Kind of like I did with Denzel Washington in Training Day, right? Which is why he wanted to you're like, holy shit, what are you doing, Denzel Washington? Where part of it is not, I mean, he's a great actor, but part of your initial shock is like, what the fuck's going on here? Because that's not the character that you're used to from him. And so for that was my own baggage, though, that you bring into the movie. But it's weird to have all these thoughts, right? When you're watching effectively a Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah. So it's interesting what you bring up about Idris Elba, about Brixton, because for me that was my Clark Kent moment, is when it's revealed that Brixton is not the big bad. Right. That there's like a mastermind, this faceless voice behind Brixton. And I at that point I was like, oh, come on. Like it just felt really unnecessary because he was smart. He had incredible training. He was powerful. Why couldn't he be the big bad? Why do we have to have it? You know what I thought of? I thought of Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
Like that's what it made me think of, is like this faceless voice. And I have a theory as to who that voice is. But we'll see. Maybe we can compare guesses. But
no, I agree with you, Lolly.
That was my Clark Kent moment. Yeah. When we have this like extra layer of villain, and it just seemed really unnecessary.
But he's not. I mean, that's the thing that made me mad, and I didn't like about, in a way, because I'm like, so he doesn't have autonomy. He's not. He's a foot soldier. He's a pawn.
He just is a pawn, and that made me upset. So yeah. So I think it's Ryan Reynolds.
You do.
And it's specifically the voice cadences.
Yeah.
I think it's Ryan Reynolds.
And they cut in and out.
Yeah.
It's funny because I totally get that. And that would be kind of a what lies beneath the fact that Ryan Reynolds would play a villain, which is not his jam. He plays these total non-villains, right? And so, of course, like my other thought, though, is the Kurt Russell character, and I can never remember his name, is who I'm not saying is a good guy. But, you know, the setup, too, of Idris Elba, I'm like, he's going to end up being just some foot soldier to some white guy. And I was like, okay, who's the white guy that could pull this off? And so you start thinking, right, about the Fast and the Furious realm. And there's a limited number of those white guys. And one of them is Ryan Reynolds' character. One of them is Kurt Russell's character. And I only say it's going to be a white guy because the eugenics angle is like, come the fuck on.
Right? No, it's true. That's true. That's reasonable. But yeah, I think it's I as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, it's Dr. Claw. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it's a classic.
But I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if they see how it plays out, what the numbers are. And because everybody in the Fast and the Furious realm gets redeemed.
You know what? You know who
Shaw was supposed to be a bad guy, not a bad guy.
Oh.
So sad. You know, Shaw was not a bad guy. All of the original cast members aren't actually bad guys. They're family. You know, right. So I'm thinking Idris Elba's going to get reactivated, wash up on some fucking shore in the South Pacific or God knows wherever. and he's gonna get flipped back on or whatever in a Tony Stark style montage.
Jason Bourne. He's gonna pull a Jason Bourne and
right.
with a conscience.
If they were gonna take advantage of like things happening in real life for that character, I ain't saying necessarily change the voice, but they would let what's his name, Tyrese, play the big bad, since he was like, we go way back. You know, since Tyrese was complaining and crying about
Ooh. I like it.
Because he was saying you don't remember me. That's right.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. And you know, the thing is I don't like about it is once again falling into the optics, right, of he Black Superman, but actually you're Black Robin. Right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't like that. But and that's what I'm like, can you let just Idris be the boss, right? And to have this malevolent, that's why I'm like, if it turns out to be a fucking white guy,
yeah,
you know, which would fit, but would also be incredibly irritating at the same time, right? And if it turns out though that it was like the eugenics angle is like just a bullshit bluff because I'm just trying to fuck with you, that meant nothing. Like I don't believe that. That's bullshit. Who cares? I'm just coming after you. Right? And it turns out to be Tyrese's character, I would love it. I would be completely down with that.
So if that happens, producers, kick us our coin.
So there was something else about Idris Elba's character that I want to bring up, which was his character did a lot of exposition.
Yes.
And I think that was a mistake. I really feel like that was a mistake because every time he would have this like monologue or he would talk or he would be like filling in the exposition and then he would get done talking and I would be like, huh? What? Okay. Whatever he said. I couldn't concentrate at all. Every time he was on screen, I was like, huh? Okay. So they really should have had like the Russian doctor with the horrible Russian accent or something.
My God.
Like,
no, but Idris Elba, he's so pretty. But can we please talk
beautiful.
about the best, to me, the best, a couple of really good things I liked about this movie. And is number one, how big of an asshole that scientist was. I fucking loved it. And I'll tell you why. He's an asshole because how could you not see this shit coming? Right?
Right?
And second of all, when he got called out for being like, how dumb are you? He did a classic, stereotypical white male scientist, but I'm fucking brilliant move of, well, I've got 2 Nobels, but who's counting? And I'm like, you can take those 2 Nobels and see where you are now, my friend.
Yes. Hide.
Right. And it was such like, that is like actually true, right? Like that is how some of these scientists behave, as if like, well,
I'm brilliant.
You're saying I'm stupid, but I'm actually a Nobel laureate. And I'm like,
Yeah, there's some things you don't get from book learning.
Yeah, I'm so brilliant. I have no ethics. None. Zero. Zilch.
Right? And I'm just like, ooh. And I just really love that whole little bit of dialogue because I'm like, you've pretty much nailed some very significant historical figures. You know, I'm thinking of Fritz Haber, father of the nitrogen cycle, also of chemical weapons, of just like, wow, you really came to fucking regret that. And then again, like, you got a Nobel. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, right? When you think about some of the scientists that we've run into that have done, and just this week with an endometriosis paper, egregious behavior. And if you say to them, what the fuck are you doing? They'd be like, but I got a PhD and a Nobel. And you're like,
$1 million in grants. I got $1 million in grants to do that. So.
And you're just like, right? Like that part I really, really liked. And for a reason of like, I'm glad someone finally called that out for being like, that's what sometimes people are like, right? And because there, again, lots of times in history, we've seen this type of behavior, you know, medical torture, chemical weapons, Even Agent or just agree, this last research of like, are you kidding me with this, right? And there's like the cavalier way he was like, okay. And so that part, and of course, again, this whole thing about his virus. And the other bit of dialogue I liked is The Rock, when The Rock basically told Jason Statham's character, and I just think of him as the transporter, that it's not up to you if your sister wants to fuck me.
Yeah.
Okay. So you slow your motherfucking roll. And I was like, oh damn, a little bit of a feminist tirade from The Rock.
I like that too.
I was like,
I just only wish they had skin to the sister like peeking out of her mask, just going like, okay.
But like that bit, I was like, I wonder, because it had 2 male screenwriters, and I remember telling my friend, I'm like, who wrote that? Like, because I don't. But the saying of like, first of all, she's capable. Second of all, she's a grown ass woman. Like, I really liked all of that, and I'm just like, that is not dialogue that I would have seen 5 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. I was still surprised to see it in this one.
Right?
Surprised, yeah.
I mean, he delivered it with conviction, and I love how he's like, "I'm gonna let her do whatever he wants,"
Like, and if she want to climb this big brown mountain, I'm gonna let her.
And I was like, "You go," and I was like, "That was really." First of all, it's very savvy of The Rock. I don't know what dialogue was there in the first place, but that slapdown was appropriate. It was timely. It was. Like I was like, wow, did the Rock just deliver a feminist diatribe? Like, what the hell, right? Like, so that part, like, I was like, oh, record scratch. So that part I really liked. I mean, those 2 moments, I was like, who wrote? And I really, because I'm like, I don't believe any of you people wrote this. So who did you bring in? Right? Like, maybe that makes me whatever.
Did you get Feminist Jones to come do a little writing? Script.
So now, okay, can we please talk about the bad virus vacuum?
A portable dialysis machine? What is that? What is that? So first of all, that virus is not contained. I need to say this at the outset. That virus is not contained, because when that helicopter crashed, she's bleeding from the head. Right? So she's got an open wound while this dialysis backpack is going.
Yep.
So there's a viral vector out there in Samoa somewhere.
In water.
In the water.
Yes. It's spread in the water. So I gotta go back before that. Like, I get that she tried to take it out. I get that. But when they were like, injection ready, why she put her hand over it? You could have put a piece of cloth over it. You could have just let it just shoot into your pocket. I don't know.
Here's what I love, though. Here's what I love. I get, so you're easier to carry than a fucking vial. Okay. Because, but the other thing I love, though.
Hold on. Oh, with that Mission Impossible. Which Mission
of course.
Impossible that was a Mission Impossible plot?
It was the one with Thaddy Newton. Number 2, number 3. I'm not sure. Right? You know how they pitched this movie? They were like, look, it's Fast and the Furious, but it's basically Mission Impossible and the Transporter. Okay, we're done. Right? So what I love too about this is I'm literally sitting there going, oh my God, I'm really surprised they didn't say nanomagnets, but okay, so they didn't. Thank fuck for that, because that's okay. But what I love though is I'm like, this movie should have ended about 90 minutes ago, because yes, of course, you should have killed this bitch and burned her in an incinerator. But I just love how these 2 dudes are like, she's so precious to us that we have to risk the fate of everyone.
When the guy first said it's going to be 2 hard answers, I thought he was like, well, the first one's easy. I was like, oh, we're going to cut our hand off? That's the easy one?
Right.
Oh, okay. She just lose her hand. Okay, because the pellets were still there. I'm like, oh, sis, you got no hand. That's what's up. Then I thought the other one was she dies. But I was just like, oh yeah. Like we're gonna do all this stuff, get on planes and nope.
Make
I'll be
secret
like,
identities, right? Which, of course, okay, first of all, to make fake documents to hack into like 97 different, okay, fine, whatever. Get planes to Russia, hook up with your ex, who happens to also run an organized crime unit, which she looked pretty badass in Russia. All right, go from Russia all the way to Samoa. And I'm just thinking, like, and I mean this with love, girl, because I did like Hattie's character. Do not hesitate. Did we learn nothing for 28 days later? Kill this woman and toss her in an incinerator. Problem solved. Then he wouldn't have to fly all over. I mean, I get it, but still.
You're right.
I'm so cold-blooded. I'm so cold-blooded. But I get the family angle. And given again, Fast and Furious, once someone's deemed family in the Fast and Furious universe, they'll fucking literally move heaven and earth to save your punk ass.
Yeah.
Right?
The loyalty is strong in that crew.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you did, where you are, where you're from, like they're gonna come for you. They might kill you, but nobody else gets to. Right? Yep. So that part was like, okay. But I love how even she was like, look, we know what the option is. And the men around her were like, no. But on the other hand, homegirl didn't take care of business. So she couldn't have been super committed to that option.
Yeah, because she could have took herself out and fell over a fire.
But she didn't. Which again, I get like the human instinct to like, but I don't want to go out, I want to live, I guess is the, whatever. Now, the other thing is, why were we in Samoa again?
Because it's off the grid. It's off the grid.
It might be off the grid, but they found them awful fast. Because it's Samoa and it's not off the fucking grid.
It's not. So, let me just say this. So I thought that was something. I don't know what I think yet, but so with the science angle, there was some serious decolonizing science up in there. So I'll give them that and some indigenizing science.
I agree.
Yeah, that I was like, this was some classic. This was Mama was like, I got rid of the weapons. We're gonna fight with these. And I was just like, I don't know.
I liked her. I liked her a lot.
But I was just like, you got rid of all the weapons.
When she almost beat them to death with that shoe, I was like,
I felt that. Is that a universal?
Yeah.
Like that's a black and brown woman thing. When that chancellor came, pow.
I know. I was like, ooh, the chocolate. I can feel it from here. Yeah.
And I love that they had what's his name as his brother Clifford Curtis.
Yes.
Every ethnicity in the world. And I didn't realize he actually is he's Polynesian. I thought all the time he was Latino. Because he was so many Latino gangsters.
That's funny. I had the same reaction because when I saw him, I'm so used to seeing him playing like a Middle Eastern terrorist that I was like, oh, they couldn't cast a real Samoan.
Yeah, I was like, but he's believable. He's absolutely believable. I really like him as an actor. Like, I really like him.
I like the Samoa. Like, I really think The Rock was like, look, I'm Samoan, and I want to have more brown people in this movie. So at some point, we're going to Samoa and make it happen. And they were like, yes, sir.
We're getting my family paid. So, with that, did anyone catch the 2 Easter eggs in the movie? It probably was more, but I caught 2.
No, what'd you see?
So with Jason, with Statham's character, when they're walking through his secret garage to get a drink, and he's pointing at his cars, and it was a little Mini Cooper, and he was like, that was for an Italian job.
Yes.
Nice.
I saw that one too.
He was like, oh, that was an Italian job I did. Yep. Yeah. And then the other Easter egg is when they're in Samoa in the family house in Rock, where they're sitting there. It's just ever so brief. There's a photo of his dad, Rocky Johnson, the wrestler.
Yes.
The wrestler, and Rock is the little boy up hanging on the wall. Yes. Oh yeah.
I think that's literally like, he was like, look, I want to highlight my culture, my part of my family's culture in this movie. And the person who plays, I think his like persona name, his last name is Rain. He's also a wrestler. That's his cousin in real life.
Yeah.
There's a family connection there. But I still was like, this is great, but also like Samoa's not off the grid. Like it was one of those like weird things of like,
yeah. But did you notice like you didn't see? I don't know. They it's green, damn it, and that's off grid. Okay.
Because I'm like, for off the grid, they found you real fast because you took a chartered plane there.
Because how look just like who leaving Russia today? Who?
Ooh, look, an air marshal booked it. No, but I love Kevin Hart. Yes,
I like this character. I like that. A little throw to his Jumanji work. I thought, and not just that, they played in some other movie together too. They've done a couple movies together.
Yes, yeah.
So it was a nice cameo because they kept it under wraps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I was really surprised to see him.
Yep.
And they didn't go for the obvious jokes.
Yeah.
which
was nice. Like I thought at some point the height was going to become a thing.
Nope.
And they didn't do that. So that I like that.
Yeah. I think like that's the thing is that there were a lot of good elements to this movie. I was surprised by some of the things I really liked. I do think it could have been better. I mean, it could have been trimmed down some of the, I'm like, do we need this whole part? But I feel that way about a lot of action movies. It's like if 3 explosions are good, 9 are better. Are they really though? Like, so now thinking about any other things that we want to talk about. There's a lot in this movie. This movie has like so much bad science, so much like craziness. Is there anything like off the top?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when they get to the location where they're going to extract the virus, right? The secret like plant, the death cult, wherever their headquarters is.
Right.
And they show
Amazon.
Yes. So
Amazon.
Brixton has Hattie in this like little like weird like all-terrain vehicle golf cart thing.
Yep.
And they're rolling through this like hangar, right? It's like this airplane hangar. And you see all these vehicles like parked, but you also see guys in clean suits. And I'm like, why do these guys need to be in clean suits if they're driving cars in and out of this place? Like what is it that they're protecting? What is it that has to be, that didn't make any sense to me.
I know what that is. They want to just keep their personal clothes clean.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get that weird gunk.
That's really
what that was.
Fancy ass coveralls, cause
I don't want to get work on me. I don't want to mess up my good clothes.
Yeah, I found that distracting, like that particular detail of like the white clean suits
in open experiments, like they had open lab. It was an open lab in the middle, just in the middle down the corridor. It was cars parked everywhere, but just down the strip, they created these lab benches.
Yeah.
And the classic villain mistake of really elaborate plan when you could have just slit her throat, collected all the blood.
Right.
Would have been faster. You're going to kill this woman anyway with the stupid machine, this whole setup and whatever. You ain't going to leave her alive, so let's just get this over with, right? String her up like a deer and let's do this thing. Like, but again, classic Bond villain.
Yeah.
Of just over with a secret bunker in Russia and this over elaborate like whatever, and of course they find you like it was like, okay, so we're going total Bond villain route. Got it.
Inspector Gadget / Get Smart meets the transporter with a dash of Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So
the other thing that bothered me was, so they take the broken dialysis backpack
to
Samoa.
Yep.
Because
who's off the grid.
Right, because the brother is such a good mechanic that he can fix anything.
From 25 years ago, you got no fresh knowledge on what he can do.
Right. So first of all, he's a mechanic. He's not a machinist.
Hey.
First of all.
Turns out actually he is an engineer.
So he's working on this thing. I'm willing to buy that he could figure out how this thing works. I'm not willing to buy that they would have an autoclave to sterilize it, to like inject it.
No, nobody's worried about that. That's why I love like when they showed the 3D printers and the fabrication. I mean, of course, he runs this custom shop. He's an engineer effectively, right? And a fabrication expert. And I'm like, oh, but they're off the grid with international clients.
Right.
Sure. Okay. Yep. It's all coming together. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, sure. Yep. Uh-huh. And yeah, but the sterilization, I mean, that's why I'm just thinking like, so we're all going to die. And you're going to take out Samoa first because you brought this infected woman to your island.
Yeah, so germs don't exist in this universe. We didn't have to worry about them with Idris's open back. We didn't have to worry about them with this. No, germs don't exist. Physics doesn't exist, and microbes don't exist. So no, don't worry about that. No, but I would have like.
What's up with the virus and the hard deadline? Did anyone else notice that?
Well, because they're in capsules, right? So, like, I guess these nano capsules where at some point they're going to break open and.
Not time release because she's just, I mean, literally, she's looking good. She's fighting, she's whatever. And what? She's going to turn off like a robot at 72. She's just boom, dead. Like, there's no decline. Like, boom, it's just going to be an instantaneous. Like,
well, so my interpretation of that was that at 72 hours, the capsules would release the virus into her system, and then at that point, it would be unrecoverable. Like it would be uncontainable.
At 72, because that's kind of how they, like it's a countdown to death. But that's why I'm like, that's a hell of a virus. I mean, there's not even any kind of uptake. You don't have any. They don't have to hijack a system to make more of themselves.
That's why they had that thing. It's literally it was like a little vacuum cleaner. It just sucked up the little caplets.
And I'm like, that, okay. And that's on the one hand, though, because they had a science console. They did.
Why were they in her hand, though? Like, I didn't get that part.
Oh, that's where she put her hand.
Oh, that's where the wound was?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And it was just 3 little dots like the, micro contamination. So they stayed in her hand for a while, but then they started traveling. But so they had to be vacuum cleaned.
Oh, no, I mean, they're in her bloodstream, right? So she knew that, which is like, on the one hand, though, it's like, okay, they had to write this was, I'm just imagining, as sometimes I do these consulting calls, like, though, this is the conceit. You cannot change the fundamental plot point. So whoever consulted was like, well, then this is a thing where it has to be completely contained. It's not time release, right? It's going to have to be programmable, collapsible, whatever. And then it would be catastrophic cascade of what, like I'm just imagining, I'm trying to imagine someone getting a script who's the science consultant and being like, and they've been like, no, we just need your help with the virus thing. Because a scientist reading this would be like, physics doesn't work. Okay, let me skip all of that. Go straight to the, right? Let me just go straight to the, I can't even. But on the one hand, though, like, but they didn't say these words because I know that's the fun part is you just wonder, they say, they show a little picture, right? That looks like, it actually, the little capsule with the black, it kind of like, so they're like graphene, like you just, in your mind, I'm just thinking like, and literally the vacuum, right? So you have this like revert, and I'm just like, I love it. I love everything about it. It makes no sense, and I love it.
Yep, let's do that. Let's make it happen.
I love how he was like, I want you to reprogram this for me. And I'm like, so they have Bluetooth or like, you're just going to be like, I am now, they're all part of the Borg. Like, we are now going to repro. Like that part I was really, and you know what I love though? Okay, another one I love is how easy they have no fucking encryption. And again, this super outlet that controls the media, that basically is whole shadow network and council. And you could hack in to their weapon system from, I think, a laptop from 1997.
Girl, it wasn't even a laptop. It was an old Apple monitor.
But it was AOL?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. It was DOS. I saw DOS system on the computer. It was the old big chunky square monitor. It was not a laptop.
Well, but that's how you know. That's how you know she's hacking things, because it's a DOS interface.
Right.
But it was just like
But they're off the grid. But somehow she could get into there.
Somehow.
For 6 minutes.
From a glove.
6 minutes. 6 minutes.
Dougie Fresh, you're on. And you did it too.
I love this movie. That was the longest 72 hours, and that was a long 6 minutes, friends.
That was a very long 6 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
I haven't had a 6 minutes that long, and let's not say when. But that was a long 6 minutes. All right, we talked about all the things.
All the things.
So if you had, first of all, did you guys like this movie? Let me just
enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
I
enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was funnier than I thought it was going to be. I liked their chemistry.
Yeah.
I think the casting, like, of course, we all love Helen Mirren. I'd like to see her more, Jason Statham. But I think, like, the chemistry was good. I mean, this is a lot of testosterone. But I like, can we talk a little bit about Hattie? I liked her. I didn't think I would like her.
Yeah.
I actually liked her. She's badass.
Yeah, I liked her more than I thought I would.
And the only reason I think that is because, was the marketing. I know this is a movie with Jason Statham and The Rock. She was on screen a lot. Yeah. She had a pivotal role. And you would not fucking know it from any of the trailers.
No.
From any of the posters. And I was expecting her to be one of these throwaway women characters that are in a lot of the Transporter movies or in a lot of the other Jason Statham movies. The Rock is kind of a mixed bag. And so, seeing it set up, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I don't know if that's just because they were doing a bait and switch of they're introducing an entirely new. I mean, she had a lot of screen time and a lot of dialogue, and she was kicking major ass in this movie.
Some really good fight scenes too.
Yes.
I mean, she kicked The Rock's ass. Let's be fair.
Did. Yeah. So what I really liked about her was that she was, I mean, she's a beautiful woman, but she wasn't portrayed as a sex bomb. Yeah. She wasn't like, she didn't show cleavage. She didn't she wasn't using her feminine wiles. She didn't become, like, her distress did not become a plot point. Like, at no point did she have to be personally rescued. She could handle herself. And they never went, like, the whole, like, you're pretty good for a girl.
Right.
Like, it was just, she was portrayed as being capable and competent from the jump and throughout the movie.
Yeah, I did like that too.
And the only moment when that was kind of called into question was from the perspective of, like, a brother and his sister, which is fair. I mean, that's fine. I get that.
And I think also what I liked about it is, again, if this was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, God forbid, 20 years ago, but we've had different, things happen, different types of movies, different heroines. Like you said, Lolly, always capable. They didn't go the honey pot route or the honey trap route, which, you know what? It fucking works on some of these assholes because it just does from the patriarchy. So I'm not saying don't have it in your toolkit, but that wasn't her, right? She is her mother's daughter. So I think it's in her wheelhouse. I could see that. But for the situation she was faced with, that just wasn't a tool she needed to use, right? And I bought that she was going through the Rolodex of expertise. Because you saw that dialogue about, we should try the Mick Jagger versus like all of these things that she could do, right? And that's why I really like this character, is that she was a woman with agency, She was a self-rescuing princess.
Yep.
And for this franchise, they've had a lot of really strong and capable women for being kind of a testosterone whatever. They've also had a lot of women villains. They've had a lot of women heroines and everybody in between. And so for every frivolous thing that people say about this franchise, you're not getting some of those types of women characters doing these types of things in anything else.
Yeah.
And it may be like a silly franchise or whatever, but where are these types of women getting opportunities in other vehicles of this budget magnitude, right?
And even within this franchise, the other female characters at some point, they go out of their way to remind the audience that they're fuckable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that as much with Hattie.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I agree.
Because even the one time with the kiss thing, he's like, should we do it again? No.
She was like, no. Yeah, no. Maybe
And
later.
what I love, again, too, and I think, you know, again, from where we are now at the time, how it was handled, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
And sometimes the relationships are like, you're like, Jesus Christ, you know, like, that's not believable. But I found, like, I was really pleasantly surprised by this movie, how funny it was, how, like, feminist it was. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And so I think, do we do out of 10 or do we do out of 5?
Out of 10, out of 10.
And
You know, for again, this is on action movie scale, because I don't want to compare it to like 12 Years a Slave or some shit. I'm going to give it like a good solid 8, 9. Not a 10, only because it's too long. They could have trimmed it. If it had been trimmed, some of the things could have been, but then like, so we would have missed some of the ridiculousness. But it was funny. I liked the characters, the good chemistry. And even though I thought it was too long, I'm like, nice stunts. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Dee.
oh, I really enjoyed it. I was thinking a solid 8. I would definitely watch it again if it ever came like on my TV and I was scanning channels. I'd be like, "Ooh, stop! Let's watch that."
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I would give it an 8. It did everything that you want an action movie to do.
Yes.
You know, like I went into this movie and I'm honestly in a place in my life where I'm avoiding media that makes me feel things. Like I don't have the energy. I don't want to feel things. I just want to watch things explode and I want to see things that are fun. And this hit all of those buttons for me. And it was great. Like, you know, it was it was innovative. Some of the stunts were really exciting to watch. You know, there wasn't a lot of tension because we knew that our main characters were going to be fine. But it was entertaining. So yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would, like you said, Dee, if this was on Netflix or whatever, I would be like, you know what? Let's watch this. We're all going to have fun with it. And so I think, you know what? It is worth the price of admission to get that nice studio experience.
Yes, I agree.
And so again, like you said, I mean, right now, I feel you with the shit that has gone down. This is just the kind of movie that is like, I just want to go and check out. I don't want deeper meaning. There is no deeper meaning.
No. No.
So,
if I come in a room and I see This Is Us on the TV, I will run screaming out of the room. I'll be like, no, I can't. No.
I cannot. Yeah. So awesome. Well, thank you, ladies. This was great. Okay, so you heard it here. Hobbs and Shaw. Science abysmal.
Abysmal.
But it's Fast and the Furious, and we liked it. A solid 8 out of 10. So spend that $13 to $20.
And now, hopefully, and we're firmly in the sci-fi realm now. The Fast and Furious has totally moved into sci-fi. It's not just car porn.
No.
Now it's sci-fi. So I'm hoping we see some more good sci-fi.
It's taking a turn to the Battlestar Galactica friends.
Yeah, just say it's military science. You know, military sci-fi. So for sure.
Oh yeah. like, and that's what I love about it. I mean, I would call this movie with the plot line. I mean, it's sci-fi action, right? It's, and there's an overriding corporation. Again, we've seen that with Aliens. Corporation, you know, action behind the scenes, and the shit goes bananas, and they sacrifice people. Like, so we see that in a lot of franchises. And so, you know, too bad, Hobbs and Shaw. Now you're sci-fi.
Yep.
So awesome. So they don't fuck up this sequel. No,
Right.
just kidding.
Right.
Which will be like the 10th. I can't even. There's so many of these. I always get the numbers wrong.
9, right? This would be technically 9.
9.
Okay,
But it's Fast and Furious Presents. So
yeah, so
it's like a little.
It's a little over here. But yeah, so awesome. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.